Hi guys, I'm going to be talking about Joan of Arc today, and basically I'm going to be reading off my study guide. If you hadn't heard the story before, I read it on the internet, I read it on the textbook. There are a few minor details that are switched around, but nobody can really prove which ones are right, but I'm going to tell you what I heard from my textbook and from my social studies study guide, and I'm not going to be reading off of it, I just need it here because I just need it here. So, yeah. And then after this, I wrote on the board some review for it. Okay. So, in 1429, much of the French land was owned by the English. And Charles, who wanted to have the French throne, fought the English for it because he wasn't happy. He wanted his own land and he wanted to rule his own land. A 17-year-old peasant, which is a person who was very poor, like lower class, she went to church and she said that she heard voices in her head when she was praying. God told her that she had to save France. So she went and she told Charles this. At first he was like laughing at her, and then they set up this, not like a game, but a trick. Out of everybody, they set a lot of people in a room, and if she could figure out who is Charles, then she'll actually grab his attention, and it'll go from then on. And the king, the soon-to-be king, dressed as a waiter, and she recognized him immediately and said, "I will not allow my king to serve me." So she got his attention, and he finally said, "Okay, we're really in a bad position. How could this go wrong?" And it was a good thing they did that, because he gave her all the supplies she needed, and she led an attack against the English at Orleans. Within 10 days, the city was free, and then she became known as the Maid of Orleans. And after staying in the army, she was captured as a French traitor, and she spent a year in prison, which is so unfair because she led them to that victory, and she got put in prison. And eventually, what happened was people thought she was a witch because the English could not believe that a woman beat their entire army. Joan actually commanded each soldier where to go, where to attack, what to do, and the English were astonished. How could a woman actually beat us? So that's when the English people said, "You know what, she's probably a witch." And she was tried as a witch and she was found guilty. Now, in the old days, if you were found guilty of heresy, which is going against what the church said, or, of course, being a witch, same difference, you got one last chance to say in front of all the townspeople, if you said, "I was wrong, I made a mistake, I lied, whatever," you're clear. But she said that, "I'm not going to lie, because this is true," about how she did everything, how God talked to her, and people thought she was just insane. So she was burned. They actually had a stake, which was right in the center of the town. There was a pole, you got tied to it, and you were burned. And that's unfortunately what happened to Joan. And so the court found her guilty, and in 1920, doesn't seem right, but in 1920, the Catholic Church declared her innocent. She was long gone by then, but so she was actually innocent, and they made a really big mistake. But because of that, the English and the French became more unified, and that was kind of like the 100 Years' War, that's what it was called. So after that, everyone became more unified, but yeah, many peasants died during the war from disease or from fighting, and the ones who remained were greatly needed as workers. So as a result, they began to demand, they began to make demands, and the nobles, who the peasants worked for, they were forced to pay them wages, and they allowed them to move outside of the manors, and the manors were the field where they were working. So basically, to make a long, that whole story short, that excuse me, that one 17-year-old girl who was a nobody helped the king, who was a somebody, and French was free because of that one girl. So, just as a quick review, to see my sloppy handwriting, everybody loved it. 17-year-old peasant. My screen goes blank real quick. Alright, 17-year-old peasant. She said that God told her that she had to save France, make sure Charles was crowned king. So that's what she intended to do. So Charles and Joan, they attacked the English, and they won. There was, what does that say? And she was tried for being a witch, which I think was sort of, not the climax of this entire event, but it kind of, from everything, it was like a roller coaster. They went all the way to the top, they won, and then she was tried, it's like it all went down slope from there. So, she was found guilty, and she was burned, and then she was found innocent, millions and millions of years later. So, that's basically what Joan of Arc really did, and I want to share that with you. So thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something new.